Hey, this is Chris from Rekkid Talk, and so this is the top records of 2022 video. And so the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to have my top 10 new releases of the year in terms of albums. I'm going to follow that up with my 4 favorite reissues of the year, again, album wise, my 3 favorite 7-inch records of the year, my 2 favorite 10-inch records of the year, and finally, number 1, I will show you the last record I got in the year 2022. And again, I haven't listened to all records or anywhere close to all records. So if I don't mention one of your favorite records in my top 10, it might mean that I don't like the record as much as you do, but it more likely means that I haven't heard the record at all. And I'm going to show a few records that I doubt many, if any, of you have heard, and a few that I think a lot of you have heard. So let's get into it with number 10. I'll probably be the only one that has this on their list. This is Hunter Cross with Existential Origami. You may remember him if you watched my Super Wolf videos about record hunting in Jackson, Tennessee. Never found the Super Wolf records, but the Third Eye Curiosities record shop. Hunter's grandfather was working that day. Apparently, Hunter and his partner, Cameron Briley, who do music together and have their little tiny record store together. So they made this album, Existential Origami. I first got the single with the song Shine on it that I thought was really great. Got the entire album. I had to basically send them an email on Discogs because I didn't have it listed. I said, I'd like to buy your record, and I was able to get the record. But it's going to be a hassle if you try to get it. But they're sort of self-described as a Southern Gothic beatnik psych rock duo who are young, hungry, and not wasting any time. All right. Number 9, we're going to go to Australia. The Australian singer-songwriter Julia Jacklin with this album, Pre-Pleasure. Lydia Where It's Across, the opening track, is a great track. So she's originally from the Blue Mountains area in Australia near Sydney, although I think she's Melbourne-based now. This is sort of some dreamy indie pop and some indie rock mixed together. So that's Julia Jacklin, my number 9. Number 8, this might be the most fun record of the year, the Delvon Lamar Organ Trio with Cold as Vice, or Cold as Weiss, however you want to say it. This came out on Coal Mine Records. I have number 99 from the Vinyl Me Please exclusive, Fancy Blue Vinyl. And so this is a trio from Seattle doing contemporary soul jazz. Delvon Lamar, of course, is the leader, playing the Hammond organ. There's a guitar player and a drummer as well. So it's sort of soul and jazz and funk and blues, sort of Booker T for the 21st century style. So that's the Delvon Lamar organ trio. Song titles really don't matter. Listen and party. That's that kind of thing. And then an old favorite of mine who has been absent from releasing albums for many years, but came out with a new album very recently. I've only gotten this a couple days ago, and I've only had a couple listens. My number 7 is going to be Caitlin Rose with the album Cazimi, especially the song Nobody's Sweetheart, and Black Obsidian. And so Caitlin Rose, is she straight out of Nashville? Is she country? Is she indie rock? She's kind of a blend of those. She's the daughter of a well-known songwriter named Liz Rose, who's written for people like Taylor Swift, Carrie Underwood, Little Big Town. Her mom's won a couple Grammys in songwriting. So Caitlin Rose came out with a really great album. Came out in either 2010 or 2011 called Own Side Now. She followed it up a couple years later with The Stand-In. And then there's been a long break. I think something really not good happened to her for a while. She's not been willing to talk about it publicly, but she's back releasing music, which makes me happy. And hopefully she's in a better place than I think she'd been for a while. Caitlin Rose, Cazimi, my number 7. Number 6, Wet Leg. Yeah, they're from the Isle of Wight. They sure blew up. Infectious power poppy with somewhat salacious lyrics like Che's Lounge, Rhiannon Teasdale, and Hester Chambers. They've been nominated for a bunch of Grammys. I never thought I was going to be showing Grammy-nominated music on my channel, but it sort of happened. They're up for Best New Artist. They're up for Best Alternative Music Album. I have no idea what the qualification is to be Best Alternative Music, but I guess you have to release one of the most popular albums of the year in order to be able to be in that. Number 5, we're going to go even closer to home than Hunter Cross. We're going to go to Hometown. S.G. Goodman, Shayna Goodman, with her second album, Teeth Marks. Some wonderful songs, including the last song on the first side, If You Were Someone I Loved. Patron Saint of the Dollar Store. I mean, that's just a wonderful song title. She's again another one of these Americana singer-songwriters. Because she's gay and liberal, she can't be part of the mainstream country society, but sort of blending country and soul and blues and rock. This is less rock than her debut album. Her debut album had a song called The Way We Talk, which I still think is her best song, although this is a stronger album front to back. This is on the Verve Forecast label, and she seems to be someone who's going places. And she lives in the same town as I do. Number 4 is this unknown dude named Jack White with an album called Fear of the Dawn. He's trying to be like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard and releasing multiple albums per year. This one's called Fear of the Dawn, including the first song is sort of a fun, cartoonish garage blues rock with some cheesy keyboards and crazy wanky guitars. This is not for your friends that like mellow music or traditionalist music. Entering Heaven Alive, his other album, would probably make them happier. So there's some Third Man record action for you. My number 3 album of the year is going to be Black Midi with Hellfire. So these are some crazy young guys, early mid-20s from London. And when I was re-listening to albums in order to make the video, this is the one that really rocketed up my rankings from not making the video at all to being my number 3. I don't think I really got this record the first couple times I listened to it. The last couple times I've been like, this is really cool. I'll probably be listening to it again in the near future after I'm done shooting this video. It's sort of a concept album about death, if death ends up being just a completely crazy mindfuck. Welcome to Hell song. Didn't like it quite as much as the Squid record from last year, but it's pretty close. Crazy mix of like post-punk and math rock and jazz and electronica and really weird quasi-spoken lyric vocals. I get sort of a Mars Volta vibe from these guys, sort of a wild slab of goodness, like some of my favorite albums like Songs for the Deaf by Queens of the Stone Age, or Sound and Fury by Sturgill Simpson. So that's Black Midi Hellfire. We'll see if these guys can continue with stuff like this in the future, or if this is like their one real shot. My number 2 album of the year, we're going more into my gender-bendy, quirky Americana. Is this Saint? Now, have I turned into Sam St. John's channel here? Okay, so this is Raylan Baxter with If I Were a Butterfly. And so this is Raylan's best record yet. I became aware of him and Caitlin Rose both around the same time. Caitlin Rose's debut album had a wonderful song called Shanghai Cigarettes, which is a duet with this guy. And he made a few albums. He was always just sort of this dopey indie folk dude, sort of like the Southern guy who would like go to shows and smoke pot. Had a pleasant voice, but he's really gone beyond that. I mean, you've got elements of like 70s funk and rock with the folk and Americana. This is certainly his most interesting record. I really like the song Rubber Band Man on their Tadpole Dirty Knees. But my number one album of the year, and this one's a complete mind fuck. So this is Tanya Tagaq with Tongues. So if you don't know about Tanya, and no one seems to talk about her in the VC, but Tanya Tagaq is a brilliant and challenging artist. She's Inuit. She's from Aquakaluk to Tagaq in Nunavut. I was trying to pronounce the name of her town correctly. I don't know if I did or not. I mean, is she a woman or a monster? You got crazy songs like Teeth Agape, Birth, Do Not Fear Love, Earth Monster. And she's really angry and really upfront in your face about it. As an indigenous woman, condemning things like residential schools, white vegans who criticize traditional Inuit hunting, rapists, the standout song Colonizer, and there's a remix of it at the very end as well. I mean, she just gets up in your fucking face about it all. And it also is one of my prettiest vinyls of the year. I said vinyls, ha ha ha. It's clearer with sort of this pink splattery streakiness to it. So that's Tanya Tagaq with Tongues. And that was my number one album of the year. And we'll come back with some of the other stuff shortly. Alright, so my 4 reissues is going to be in no specific order. I kind of think of it as 2 old friends and 2 new friends. So the old friends are basically stuff I bought back in 1992 in the day on CD. And I've now gotten the reissue versions. So we have L7, Bricks Are Heavy. You can see it says 30th anniversary right there. So this was L7's best album of their career. So this was just completely uncompromising, heavy, all-female band. Anita Sparks, Susie Gardner, Dee Placus, and Jennifer Finch. Classics like Wargasm, Pretend We're Dead, One More Thing, Integrity, Shit List. I mean, every song on here pretty much is a winner. And then another pretty much perfect album from 1992 is going to be It's a Shame About Ray by the Lemonheads. And so we've got Evan Dando at his best. This is the 2-disc version. So Mrs. Robinson is relegated to disc 2, along with the demos and live cuts. And then the first disc is the original 12 songs. So Evan at his best, doing a lot of writing with his Australian friend Tom Morgan, bringing Juliana Hatfield on board to play bass and provide the backup vocals. Nobody oohs better than Juliana. So you've got wonderful songs. It's a Shame About Ray, Rudderless, My Drug Buddy, Allison's Starting to Happen, ending with a cover of Frank Mills. So those are a couple of old friends. Then let's talk about the new friends. And so someone I became aware of in the last couple of years is a woman named Beth Cameron. So this is more of sort of your indie Nashville. She had a band that put out 3 albums called Forget Cassettes. This album, Salt, which came out in 2006, was the second of the 3. I've talked about the first album before, Instruments of Action, which I described as sounding a lot like early Slater-Kinney. And her later albums got it more experimental, more electronic. This album, Salt in particular, this is just a harrowing album. Album is dedicated to the memory of Adam Cameron, her brother who died apparently was only 20 years old. I believe it was suicide. I'm not 100% sure about that. But what is obvious just from listening to some of the songs is that her brother's death was obviously something that deeply affected her. And then the other new friend, this will come under the category of artist I never heard of until a month ago, and now I think his album is awesome. And so this is something that came out on RSD Black Friday, was talked about by the vinyl community, and I'm like, oh yeah, some jazz record they're all excited about. The Waxed is excited about it, all that. But I listened to it on YouTube, and I decided I tracked it down from a seller in Discogs for just like standard record store day price. I didn't pay a flipper price. So this is Gary Sriracho in Medio. So this was his forgotten album from 1973. So it's like freaky Latin jazz, a little bit Herbie Hancocky in places, a little bit Santana in places, and glad to have picked this up. And we'll be back with some 7 inches and some 10 inches. All right, we're going to talk about 3 7-inch records from 2022. So first of all, we're going to have Anti-Scene. Are You Sure Hank Done It This Way? So this is a cover of an old Waylon Jennings song by Anti-Scene. So these are veteran punk rocker, so it's sort of a blend of cowpunk, hardcore, garage rock from Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's my number 3 single on TKO Records. My number 2 single, which is on Alternative Tentacles Records. You can see the bat. There he is. DFMK, Dame Peligro. So these guys are from Tijuana. So this is hardcore punk in Espanol. So these are punk guys, but you can tell they like 70s hard rock as well. I've heard all kinds of different stories about what DFMK stands for in Spanish or English, and the lyrics are in Spanish. That's my number 2. Then my number 1 is going to be something from the Sub Pop Singles Club. So this is Party Dozen. A-side called Fat Hands Gone Mad. B-side called Dog Plan. And the DMFK, yes, Dame Peligro was the main song there. So Party Dozen, Australian, mostly instrumentals, noise music. So the women, I have it written down, the instrumentation in my notes. So Kirsty Tickle plays saxophone. Jonathan Boulay plays percussion and samplers. And so it's sort of jazzy, but it's sort of psyche, and it's sort of no wavy, and it's sort of a lot of things going on, but it's what it is it's pretty cool. And then my top 2 10-inch records of the year. Why only 2? Well, I only bought 2 new 10-inch records this year. So my number 2 is going to be Laura Jane Grace, At War with the Silverfish. So this is a 7-song EP. And it turns out both my 10 inches came out on Polyvinyl Records. So Laura Jane Grace, kind of a folk punk. She is a trans woman. And some cool songs like 3 of Hearts and Smug Fuckface. And then my number 1 10-inch, and this really just has a song on each side, is Rare Symmetry by American Football. So obviously you're going to get some Midwest emo there. They put this out along with, they were reissuing their new record, which could have made my reissue list as well. So side A is a new song called Rare Symmetry, and side B is a cover of the Mazzy Star classic Fade Into You. And then the final part will be my last new record of the year. All right, so I'm back with my last record of 2022. So this will be a reissue. This will be under the My Old Friend category. So just pulling it out of the box now, still in the shrink. So we got the Juliana Hatfield 3, Become What You Are, 30th anniversary issue with, of course, Juliana Hatfield. We've got Dean Fisher on bass, Todd Phillips on drums, and we'll see you in 2023.